What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Nice rainy day here out in Spokane. So it's gonna be a pretty chill day in the shop today. We have to tear into the S2000 motor. It may or may not be chill. I'm gonna try to enjoy it as much as possible. This should be fairly fun. So a very common problem that the AP1 S2000s have with the F20 is the valve spring retainers don't really hold up. They fail a lot, and I believe it's on the intake side. It's been a minute since I did some research on this, so I apologize if I'm speaking improperly right now, but intake valve keepers and retainers need to be replaced with the F22s out of the AP2, the newer S2000. That is what we're gonna get started on today. We should be able to get this whole entire project finished up. If not, we'll get close. In this package right here, we have all of the AP2 retainers. So there's 8 retainers and 16 keepers. 00 to 03 are the AP1, so those are the cars, the motors that have the issues. And then 04 to 09 is the AP2. So I'll have all the stuff that we're gonna be using linked down below. There's some special tools I bought just to make this job go a little bit easier. But basically, if you over-rev the engine, you could drop a valve. And obviously, it's not a good idea if you drop a valve. It's never a good situation. I'm pretty sure the retainers crack. They actually crack, and I think you can inspect them, see if they're cracked or not, and then put it back together. But I figured I'm just gonna, tackle this project, get it done, get it out of the way. I do plan on boosting this car. I plan on driving this car like it's meant to be driven later on down the road, so I don't wanna have that problem ever in the back of my mind. Okay, here is some of the tools that we picked up. This is a valve spring compressor. Here's a tool to help adjust the valve clearances. This guy here I've never used before. This is to get the factory retainers off. We could use this, but this should make life go by much, much quicker. And then here's the new retainers, and you have to do the newer F22 keepers with the retainers because they're cut at a different angle. So let's tear into this thing. We got to get the coils off, the valve cover off. I've never been into a Honda engine before, but I'm assuming it's going to be a fairly simple process. We got the valve cover removed. Being that we're only doing the intakes as well, I wanted a little bit more space on that side, so I went ahead and removed the fuel rail cover as well. Let's go ahead and get this thing at top dead center. Top dead center will be when that dot or arrow on the exhaust cam and the arrow on the intake cam are facing each other. So we're gonna spin the crank with a 19mm wrench. From here, we're gonna go ahead and loosen up all of the valve tappets. So there's a lock nut and then that flathead right in the center. Loosen up exhaust and intake. And then of course, when this thing goes back together, we're gonna have to adjust the valve lash. From here, we're gonna go ahead and remove the cams. So starting with the outside bolts first, working our way in, we're gonna loosen all 20 of the 12mm bolts, pull the cam caps off, and go ahead and remove the cams. Time to move on to the fun part. We got the cams off, of course the cam caps off. This whole assembly came off in one piece and we're gonna leave it in one piece. I'm pretty sure if we take it apart, it's not gonna be very fun to put back together. So like I mentioned earlier, the only thing we're gonna be replacing is the intake valve retainers and keepers. This is the intake side. Of course, the intake manifold's right there. This is the exhaust side. These guys right here, these are the retainers. Those are the things that crack if you over rev. So this is kind of just some preventative maintenance just to make sure that doesn't happen. Because if that cracks, this right here, that little stem in the center, that is the valve stem. If the valve falls down into the cylinder, then we have much bigger issues, like a blown motor. So that is why we're doing this. We're gonna be doing these in sets of 2. So this is cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4. Cylinder 1 is at top dead center right now. So we're gonna pull out our spark plug and we need to fill the cylinder with either compressed air or with nylon rope. I used compressed air in the past when doing valve stem seals on an EVO, and it worked really well for me, so that's what I'm gonna be doing again. No matter what, the cylinder that we are working with is always gonna be at the top. The piston is gonna be at the top of the stroke, just in case our compressed air somehow fails. If the valve falls, it's gonna hit the top of the piston and we'll be able to retrieve it. If the piston's at the bottom of the stroke, the valve is gonna fall into the cylinder and we'll have to pull off the head, which is not gonna be very fun. So let's go ahead, pull out our spark plug out of cylinder 1. Just to make sure the piston's at the top, I'm just gonna grab our dipstick, drop it down into the cylinder and rotate over the crankshaft. And whenever the dipstick is at the highest point, that is when the piston is also at the highest point. And then we're gonna take our compression tester, thread it in to that specific cylinder, and then we'll be able to go ahead, pull off our retainers and keepers and get the AP2 components installed. I hope that makes sense. Let's dive into it. I apologize for the noise, but guys, we just got extremely lucky. So you can use this tool right here to remove the retainers and keepers, and you can also use it to put them on. I got the first one done. I was going to do the second one and that tool slipped off and all the parts went flying. I found the retainer and one keeper, and then the other keeper I found hiding back there. I thought it went down one of the oil galleys or something, but thank the Lord, we freaking found it, or else we had been looking for a while. Cylinder 1 is complete. Man, after that scare, I want to be super careful with the next 6 retainers that we need to swap out. This tool is super handy. It's going to save us probably 2 or 3 hours in total, because if you take this attachment off, this guy's how you remove, and then when you insert this attachment, that is how you reinstall. So let's move on to the next cylinder. Let's pull that plug out, confirm it's at TDC, and then pressurize the cylinder, and let me get some up close shots of how this is done. We somehow lost another keeper. I cannot find it. I don't know where it went. I was being super careful. The only upside right now is I have it on camera, and I was trying to use the tuning laptop here, but there's no way to slow down the footage to see if it flew off into outer space. I don't really care. I will just buy a new one tomorrow when the dealer opens. But if it's inside the engine, of course, that's not good. I've looked for like 2 hours now, and there's not a lot of places it could go. There's oil gullies, which it could definitely fall down there. I am lost on how this happened. So I'm gonna go all the way back to the house right now, put the memory card in the computer, pull it into Final Cut Pro, slow it down as much as possible, go clip or frame by frame and try and figure out where the hell one of these little keepers went. This sucks. I have looked at this footage multiple times. I don't even see where that keeper went. I don't even know. It's gone. I do not see it in the footage anywhere. So I'm 99% sure it just went flying across the shop. Either way, we're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to get this car done. But what I think I'm gonna do, head back to the shop. The only place that keeper could be, if it's not in the head, it would go through one of the oil galleys down into the oil pan. So what I'm gonna do is drain the oil. If it doesn't come out in the oil, I'm gonna actually strain the oil, like with a strainer. If it doesn't come out there, then I'll pull the pan. And if it's not in the pan, I already know it's not in the head. That means it's somewhere else in the engine bay, not internal, or it's across the shop somewhere. Either way, that tool I'm using is like, this is the second time that I lost the keeper. The first time, I think it was my fault. I wasn't being careful. Second time though, I was being as careful as possible. It's just, if you're not used to using that thing, it's a bit sketchy. So the remainder of the valves, I'm going to just use the other valve spring compressor tool that we have, that we bought, just so I can make sure we don't lose any other keepers. I should have plugged all the oil gullies. I was planning on it, but I didn't do it because I was being lazy. So it's my fault, but either way, let's head back to the shop, see if we can find this damn keeper. It'd be nice if we could find it tonight, just so we don't have to wait till tomorrow to finish the car up. Day in the life of Devin. Nothing ever goes right. All the time. Most of the time it does, but shit like this, man, I'll get to ya. I'm trying not to be pissed right now. The only thing inside the screen is the drain plug. So, I guess that means we should probably go ahead and pull the pan. I definitely don't want to pull the pan right now, but to spend like an hour to pull the pan just to double check versus potentially blowing a motor. I'm not saying it would definitely get jammed somewhere and blow the motor. It could definitely just float around in the pan and be fine and come out one day when we change the oil next. But if it did cause this motor to blow later on down the road, that would not be fun. Instead of this being a full-on tutorial of how to do the valve spring retainers on the AP1, this is a what not to do, don't lose your keepers. Pan should be pretty easy to pull. We got this cross brace right here, and then a ton of hardware, a ton of bolts on the pan. It's just RTV'd on there. Sometimes doing the right thing pays off. Guess what we found inside the oil pan? That I almost dropped on my face. We found a keeper. Look at that. I am so glad right now that we just spent, let's see, this camera's been rolling for 15 minutes and 46 seconds. That's how long it took us to get the pan off. Obviously it's gonna take a little bit longer to get it back on because we gotta clean all the gasket surfaces, but I'm actually not gonna put it back on because I'm gonna go ahead, finish up our valve job. And in case I drop another one somehow, I don't wanna have to pull the pan again. So let's finish everything up. I'm so thankful that we pulled the pan because now we don't have to wait till tomorrow to finish this car up. Okay, all 8 intake retainers and keepers are replaced. So we are all good to go there. I did end up using the same tool to get them back in wherever I put it. I tried to use that tool and it wasn't really fitting on the head well. Now that we got that all finished up, let's go ahead and get the rest of the top end assembled. Cams are back in. Cam caps are torqued down to 16 foot-pounds. It is properly aligned. It is really nice doing this because you don't have to deal with the timing chain. Now it is time for the valve adjustment. Intakes go to 0.008 to 0.010. Exhaust goes to 0.010 to 0.011. Fairly simple. Let's get it done. What we're gonna need for this process is this tool right here, or you can use just a regular wrench and a flathead. And then you're gonna need some feeler gauges as well. I lied, we can't actually get the car done tonight. I'm gonna finish up tomorrow. I don't have oil. I wanna do new plugs. We don't have plugs, and I ran out of RTV. So I'm gonna grab all that tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, come back to the shop, get this thing knocked out. All right guys, we ran to the parts store this morning, got all the stuff we needed. So we got oil, a new filter, we got some gasket maker, and some new plugs. First thing we're gonna do while the car is still up in the air is go ahead and button up the oil pan. So we gotta pull the pan back off, clean the gasket surface on the pan, clean the gasket surface on the block, throw the sealant on there. It takes, how long did it say? 90 minutes to cure. Permatex, the right stuff, 90-minute return to service. We're gonna go ahead and do this first. Let that stuff cure. In the meantime, we can get the car back on the ground, do the plugs, get the whole entire top end finished up, slap in some oil, and see if she runs. Car is 100% complete. Let's go ahead and fire it up, see what happens. We have a little bit of oil on the manifold that's burning off, so that's what that smoke is from, but everything else seems to be fine. Didn't see any other leaks. She sounded healthy, she sounded good. We got her done. That is gonna be a wrap for today. If you guys have an AP1, I would highly recommend doing the AP2 retainers. If you're gonna use that tool I was using where I kept losing keepers, make sure you be careful with it. I found that if you push down and get the retainer as close to the valve stem as possible, and then you hit it with the mallet, they pop right on. So just be careful with it. Everything that we used in today's video, I'll have linked down below. We should be good now. We'll not have to worry about those AP1 retainers cracking ever again. I didn't see any cracks on the ones that we pulled out, so we probably would have been fine. But still, at the end of the day, every time I drove this car, after I found out about that problem, every time I drove the S2K, I was always worried about what happens when a retainer cracks, breaks, we drop a valve, we lose the motor. Not a fun situation. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.